time to talk about how to train sailing in OSRS. This info has been newly released from Jagex, and so all of these training methods are going to be exactly what's coming into the game in very short time. Let's start with time trials. When you're doing a time trial, basically the idea is that you're going as fast as possible across the ocean. Now, this is not entirely clear what it would be, but it looks like you're going through a variety of obstacles, so you kind of have to navigate around with your ship, and you're going from point A to point B as fast as possible. It's high intensity, medium to high at least. It's medium to high experience, and your rewards are going to be low. This is going to be your best XP per hour, most likely, and you're going to be wanting to optimize this as fast as possible. But what if you're not trying to spend a lot of intensity? Well, that's where port tasks come in. Port tasks are basically traveling from point A to point B on a longer scale. And this is going from, like, say, Port Sarum to Port Phasmatis. It's a long journey. You got to go around the continents. You got to go from point A to point B. And maybe you're helping some kind of NPC along the way. Maybe you're delivering someone, like a charter. Maybe you're delivering a message. Maybe you're taking some ingredients, some cargo. This is what you will probably want to do for your medium intensity methods, perhaps even low intensity methods. You can travel out on the open ocean. There's not too much that you have to do, and your experience can be low if you have a short voyage, or high if you have a long, complicated voyage. This is probably going to be your most medium effort method, and you know I love medium effort methods, so this might be what I end up doing. The rewards low to medium. I don't expect you'd get a ton of rewards from your NPCs for doing this sort of thing, but it might be something to help you along. Next up, combat. Yes, Jagex did want to put combat into sailing. How is this going to work? Well, it's not entirely clear. Ultimately, you're going to be firing weapons from the ship. You're interacting with stuff on the ship, and in this case, it's weapons. While you're doing the combat, you're getting sailing XP because you're interacting with the different parts on the ship, and not combat XP. In the end, that means that you're doing combat, but you're really doing sailing combat, so it's something different. It's going to be medium to high intensity. Obviously, during combat, you got to keep on your toes. You want to make sure that your ship doesn't get blown up by some monster. Your experience reward should be medium. It's high intensity, so you are getting some experience reward for this. And your rewards can be low to high. Hopefully this is where you would go for the most important upgrades to your ship and other loot drops and rewards that you would get from sailing. Obviously, you'll have to level up your sailing in other ways first so that your ship is ready to take on combat and your navigation skills are up to the task. But once you get there, I think this would be an interesting way to give you the rewards for the skill. Other methods that you'll do along the way include charting. So once you get to a new place, you have to add it to your captain's log. This can include normal places such as the ports that we already know, but it could also include names of seas, gulfs, reefs, fjords, and basically anything that could be out there in the seas that we don't currently know about. Because as you know, our current world map is totally blank in the ocean. It just says ocean. I would love to be able to fill that in. Jagex have said that they want this to initially be a single use type of thing. Once you find a location, it'll be found, and then you can mark it off your list and kind of note it on your map. So I'm expecting it to be kind of like a quest reward in terms of how much experience you get out of this. Although there is possibility for this kind of method to be repeatable. Say, for example, if you wanted to do like a map that someone commissioned you to make. And so they'd be like, hey, can you make this map, chart these places for me? And then you'd have to go to those places and chart it. Basically, this is navigating, moving your ship to these various areas, and then maybe you have some kind of charting that you do, like a big map on your ship that you write down. Maybe you use your conning tower or the crow's nest to like look at stuff. It's a low intensity, low to medium experience, and no rewards type method. And it's not really a training method, it's just kind of something that you do along the way. Similarly, we have the ship upgrades. This is the best part of any skill, is upgrading your stuff along the way. we all love to look at our maxed house and be like, well, isn't this so much better than what we came from back in level 1 when we just had a single wooden chair in a single room? Then you look at your maxed house and you're like, yeah, I feel cool because my house is so sick. Sailing will be the same. You want to upgrade your ships till they're the coolest, fastest, strongest ships possible. They've got all the coolest stuff. You could even probably add some cosmetic upgrades, and you can customize them with all the facilities that you're going to need. So that's stuff like the steering wheel and hull and cannons and sails and masts and literally anything that you might need on the ship to navigate, to do your activities, and customize for a journey ahead. One thing that they also said is that they want people to be able to own multiple ships. There's 3 sizes of ship, if you didn't know: small, large, and colossal. And at the very least, the mods had said that they wanted you to be able to own one of each kind of ship, and potentially more. So this comes into play because if we look back at the other training methods, something like combat, like you'd probably want a big ship that's armored and has a lot of cannons. But something like time trials, you'd want to go fast and nimble, so you probably want a small ship. But that doesn't mean you want a low level ship. So you want to level up your small ship at the same time you're leveling up your colossal ship. And your small ship, when it's fully leveled up, will probably have some advanced maneuverability tactics. It could have some, something that like pushes obstacles out of the way. It could go faster than before because it's got a stronger sail or something like that. So ultimately, when you upgrade your ship, you're not just upgrading one ship, but you're upgrading multiple ships, and that opens up a lot of space for internal rewards. One of the other things that they mentioned is the possibility of having combination methods. So, for example, they have here the sea monster hunting method. Basically, it would give you experience in hunter, slayer, and sailing. You would track down monsters and slay them. It would require a harpoon as your facility on the ship. It's high intensity. Hopefully it gives you some good rewards, and it's an interesting way of training 3 skills at once. Similarly, you have the deep sea trawling fishing method. Locate some shoals, follow the fish. You need a special facility called a trawling net. And other than that, it's just fishing. So you're fishing, but you're also interacting with that thing on your ship. They also mentioned the possibility of something like mineral dredging. This is like getting rocks from the bottom of the ocean, maybe gems, something like that. You'd need weighted nets for it, so again, a special kind of facility, and it's something that would give you experience in both mining and sailing. And then finally, the example of coral farming, where you would dive down and farm the corals that are there. Or maybe not dive, maybe it'd be like a diving method or something where once you deploy the diving bell, that gives you some sailing XP. And you could place the coral in an aquarium, which could be like a player-owned house type reward for your sailing experience level ups. Overall, the core system of sailing, as they've defined it, is interacting with something on your ship. So in this case, they call them facilities, and that facility can range anywhere from a sail to a cannon, to a rudder, to a wheel, to a fishing net, or a weighted net for mining, or a diving bell for farming, I guess. The core idea that they have here is fastening the sail on your tiny ship. Every so often, the wind will change, and you'll have to react to it by changing the way that your sails are set up. Basically, what this means is there's like some small actions that probably take a few ticks, like any other skilling action, that happen on your ship, and you're going to do those over and over, but it won't be the same action every 4 ticks. Obviously, like sometimes you have to change the sails, sometimes you have to change the rudder, sometimes you'll have to fire the cannon, or use the harpoon, or do any of the other activities. So with that in mind, you can look back at the methods that we've looked at so far, and imagine this as a sailing method. Imagine the things that you're going to put on your ship to do farming, to do mineral dredging, to do deep sea fishing, or sea monster hunting. Again, they've mentioned here, it says harpoon, like here it said trawling net. On the more primary methods, they have cannons for combat, and then your typical navigation stuff with the sails and the wheels. So overall, this is what sailing is going to be. This is how you train sailing. What they've said so far is that all the primary methods, that being time trials and port missions, combat, charting, and forget the last one, but all the primary methods we've just discussed are going to be available on launch, and then it's up in the air which one of these secondary methods they decide to include. If you like the secondary methods, again, the Discord is discussing them right now. Personally, I'm not really sure about them. Like something like a sea monster hunting, it could be cool, but you know, if you don't need to get a task, then suddenly you're doing Slayer without having to ever get a task, and I don't really like that. Maybe if you unlock new monsters from leveling up your Slayer, but it doesn't give a significant amount of Slayer XP, that could be interesting. Same sort of thing for fishing, like if it's a good source of both experience, then it kind of cancels out fishing as a skill by itself, and that's always a risk with combination methods in general. But I do think that they have potential and they could be interesting, especially in a way to open up new reward spaces in those skills for something that's useful in your gameplay. Overall, yeah, I think the training is looking pretty decent. I like the idea of training sailing being interacting with something on your ship, but that changing depending on where you are in your training method. As for what I do most, obviously, because it's probably going to be the most XP per hour, I would probably be doing mostly time trials, although I definitely wouldn't mind doing something more medium effort, like a port mission, especially if that leads to helping upgrade my ship or giving me some more rewards in that way. If you're interested in more information about how sailing development is coming, feel free to join the Sailing Discord. This new skill Discord, they're putting out new videos every week or two, and blogs as well. There's a blog coming for this training method quite soon, and it'll detail more than I've detailed here, but this is just what we got out of today's stages presentation and the discussions we've had in the Discord so far. If you're interested in more videos like this, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. I got 1,000 subscribers from my last video and I'm feeling great about it. So thank you everyone who came along and showed their support. Until next time, this has been the Duck Chris about sailing, and peace out.